What's up, guys? Today we're going to be reacting to why RC Cola failed. So let's get started.
RC Cola, the joke of the soda industry. That's the perception, right? Coke and Pepsi.
No, RC Cola is better than Pepsi, but not better than Coke. Like, Pepsi is a watered down version of Coke, and RC Cola is a not better version than Coke, but it's pretty similar.
Pepsi are the two pro ball players engaged in this intense one-on-one, and RC is the kid shooting at the hoop, thinking he's part of it. It's not completely off, but I think RC deserves a little more admiration.
That's
RC
right.
is not a kid shooting hoops. They're more like a pro ball player that tore their ACL years ago and has never been the same. Oh, RC is the Derrick Rose of the cola industry. You know what? I fear my metaphor is getting too deep here. It'll make more sense in a minute. The beginning of RC Cola takes place in the early 1900s and is centered around this very busy guy named Claude Hatcher. He had two jobs. He was a qualified pharmacist and at the same time co-owned a grocery wholesale business. The other owner was his father. They started it with two other guys but bought them out of their shares after only a couple years, so Claude had a lot going on. As a wholesaler of groceries, they were basically the middleman between the manufacturers and the stores, so they made a lot of deals with both ends. Well, one day, Claude was talking to a representative from the Coca-Cola company named Columbus Roberts. The mission that day was to buy a large amount of Coca-Cola from him and then sell it to the various grocery stores that they dealt with. As I'm sure we've all experienced, when you buy a large amount of something, you usually get a discount.
That's right.
Part of what makes this business model work so well. For whatever reason, I would guess because Coke was so popular, this representative was not budging and would not give Claude any kind of discount on this large amount that he was looking to buy. The argument got pretty heated, and at the end of it, he vowed that he would never buy anything from Coca-Cola ever again. He said from this point forward, he would make his own. Let's face it.
It's pretty much the exact same thing. It's like if Coke rebranded to another company, it would be RC Cola.
Sounds like an empty threat. What's he gonna do? Put everything on hold, lock himself in his basement, and create his own competing soda that somehow had a chance against such a ridiculously strong brand? I shouldn't laugh, because that's exactly what happened. He emerged with this formula for a ginger ale. That must have been
Pretty sure it's something to do with Cherry Coke.
People were buying them. It was so successful that after a couple years, Claude and his father made the decision to abandon their wholesale business in favor of producing this ginger ale full time. That was their business for the next few years, and things were good, but I think there was a very obvious way to continue growing this business and take things to that next level. Let me ask you, in the soda market, today or 100 plus years ago, what's the better selling product?
Coke. I bet. I'm not Coca-Cola.
Is it cola or is it ginger ale? I hope everyone said cola. But then my second question is, which is more competitive?
Cola.
My point here is cola is where the real money's at. But because of that, it's more competitive. So they gave it a try, in a smart way. Even in 1910, you couldn't just compete directly with Coca-Cola. You had to have an angle. Their angle was offering cherry.
Exactly.
Cola.
Yeah, because that's where Coke got their Cherry Coke from, because this was doing so good, so they had to make their own. That's funny.
To my knowledge, Cherry Coke didn't exist yet. I know for sure they didn't start selling it officially until 1985.
That's
so
right. Oh,
they found their angle here.
that's a long time
Cherry
after.
Cola soon became their core product. It quickly surpassed their ginger ale sales, and they actually renamed the company after it. Over the next decade, they had some unlucky issues with sugar. World War I made it expensive and scarce, so they made their own refinery to ensure they'd have a bunch of it. But then soon after the war, the sugar prices dropped, and now they had all this sugar that was almost worthless. Despite their issues in making it, they had no trouble selling it. They were starting to be a bit of a threat to Coca-Cola, so I don't know how I feel about this. In what I can only see as an attempt to hinder the competition, Coca-Cola sued Chero Cola, claiming the names were too similar.
Yeah, they take cola off
in their name, since, you know, that was their thing. Coca-Cola won the lawsuit, and in 1923, Chero Cola...
That's wild. Imagine suing another company because they had cola in their name. Cola is like a type of soda. Coke should not be able to just take cola off of a company, off a company's name.
Cola was forced to drop the cola from their name. They would now simply go by Chero, and that was not good. It's not the name people
Sounds like Cheerios.
It didn't have the same.
That crap sounds like Cheerios. I'm not even gonna lie. It sounds like an off-brand Cheerios.
Ring to it. The name change caused sales to plummet. Since they were now having issues making it and selling it, they decided it wasn't worth it anymore and soon discontinued it altogether.
Dang.
I might have given up at this point, so I have to admire their resilience. They had already built their business around a ginger ale and then around a cola, and now they needed a third product to see that level of success. And they did it, this time with a fruit-flavored drink called Knee-High. Now that became the core of their business and the new name of the company. It got them through the next decade, and
I'm pretty sure they still make Knee-High. Or an off-brand version. Because they sell them like Cracker Barrel and stuff. Like at the old country stores.
then things got tough again. Two main things: the Great Depression and, sadly, the death of Claude Hatcher, who was just the backbone of the company. Founder, innovator, leader, but there's a silver lining to it. The guy who replaced him, Hilary Mott, rose to the occasion. He was promoted from VP of Sales and figured out which products should be discontinued, and the ones they kept, he started producing them more efficiently. He not only got them through it, the company was now better than ever, and looking to expand. It's kind of funny, because after everything that happened, they found themselves in the exact same position they were in over 20 years earlier, successful in making a non-cola product, but trying to find their way into that potentially lucrative cola market. In 1934, they tried it again, when they introduced Royal Crown. Their plan this time was to use all their Knee-High earnings to promote Royal Crown.
That's what we know today.
They were first to do taste tests.
That's what we know today, Royal Crown.
They would advertise the results. Evidently, they came back saying that people preferred them over Coke or Pepsi. They paid for endorsements from some of the biggest celebrities of the time. Their big break came in 1944 when it was ruled that they could now use the word cola. So they did.
They got the cola back.
RC Cola. And 15 years later, it became the new name of the company.
I think Coke just got lucky.
1960s was the best decade they ever had, and the only time it looked like they had a real chance in ever catching up to Coke or Pepsi. Do you know Diet Right? It's a diet soda that I would call insignificant to the industry today, but it used to be big. It was introduced by RC Cola in 1962, making it the first ever diet soda to be mass-produced. I think we can say, due to its head start, it was the best-selling diet soda throughout the 1960s, and the fourth best-selling soda overall, behind Coke, Pepsi, and RC Cola.
For sure my grandma still has some of that.
Coke and Pepsi are 1 and 2, obviously, but 3 and 4 were both from RC Cola, and diet sodas were getting huge, so you can only expect that to grow. In October of 1969, it all came to an end when the U.S. government banned the use of the artificial sweetener called cyclamate.
I'm pretty sure that's what they use for today's like diet soda and stuff, like zero sugar, because they brought it back in like 2020 or something. I don't know, but it was sometime around there, and like they unbanned it. And I thought that was kind of weird that they banned it and then unbanned it.
Which is what they used in Diet Right and basically every diet soda at the time. Now, just to be clear, I'm not a scientist in any way, so don't rely on what I say here, but it appears that this stuff was banned under strange circumstances. The main reason was a study concluding that when given to rats, it causes bladder cancer. That study has since been criticized.
Exactly.
I guess they gave them ridiculously high doses of it, and there's been studies since saying it's perfectly fine for humans. Sugar companies may have been involved. The general consensus is that this stuff seems to be harmless. It is still banned in the US, but it's allowed in most of the rest of the world, including all of Europe. Again, I don't know, seems sketchy, but of course, don't rely on me when it comes to forming your stance on cyclamate. Either way, it doesn't matter when it comes to Diet Right. The fact is, the government banned it, they couldn't produce their successful product anymore, and even when they tried to alter it using different sweeteners, the public is freaked out. They don't want anything to do with diet sodas right now. Not only was that exact product not allowed, the whole industry was effectively gone, and they were scared. 2 times now. They put too many eggs in one basket, and look what happened. They put everything toward Chero Cola, and then it was taken from them. Then they put a lot toward Diet Right, and again, completely taken from them. They had a very human response when they chose to diversify. But this was bad too. It was too much diversity. They started acquiring some juice companies, tile companies, like the tiles you install on the floor, picture frames, lamps, Arby's. They bought Arby's, they were no longer a soft drink company. By the 1980s, that part of their business was only about half of their revenue. In my mind, if you want to catch up to Coke or Pepsi, the only way you have a chance is if you
Spending
put
all your
every
money.
single possible dollar into doing it. Advertising, market research, product innovation, but
And even if you do that, you still have like a 0.01% chance of beating Coke or Pepsi. So I don't even know why you would try.
now, half their attention was elsewhere, and it just made things impossible. I think we can say that it was this decision that took them out of the race. Coke and Pepsi pulled so far ahead, it was just over. I don't view anything from this point as being too significant in the rivalry between Coke and RC because, let's face it, RC gave up. But here's the highlights of what followed. In 1984, after 80 years of existing as their own company, they were acquired by this shady character named Victor Posner. He was known for his hostile takeovers and had this reputation for sucking the life out of companies for his own personal gain. He cut costs everywhere he could, and it resulted in RC falling even further. If anyone had any hopes of them ever catching up to Coca-Cola, this would have crushed them. In 1993, Posner had a whole mess of legal troubles. It resulted in him giving up the company that owned RC. The company was now called Triarc, and the new owners did put more attention toward the cola, but what can you do at this point? Triarc bought Snapple and grouped it together with RC and a few other beverages, and then in 2000 sold all those beverages to Cadbury Schweppes. They quickly sold RC's international rights to a Canadian company called Cott. There were a few more changes that led to the US rights of RC Cola being held by Dr. Pepper. So today if you buy it in the US, it comes from Dr. Pepper. Otherwise, it comes from Cott. I think we can agree. Today, not many people care about RC Cola, and that's fine. But I also feel like it gets a lot of disrespect, and I don't agree with it.
A Dr. Pepper machine. Yes, oh, I can taste it now. It was a mirage. An RC Cola machine.
Yes,
Man, why are you using Family Guy? We're using Family
Anybody
Guy.
would agree with that, but I would argue they had a lot of luck along the way. In the 1920s, I don't know what was up with that court decision that made Chero Cola change their name, but 20 years later, there was a different decision, so I'd say Coke was pretty lucky to get that ruling in the first place. Could you imagine if RC hadn't had that setback? In the 1960s, the government banning cyclamate. That was a controversial decision that, again, killed their most promising product and scared them away from the industry. What if that hadn't happened? In the 1980s, the company was hostily taken over by an owner that ignored the brand. What if that hadn't happened? What if all three hadn't happened? Most of that was bad luck and out of their control. I would argue that if they had a little better luck, we would probably have three main colas today. Or maybe they would have knocked out one of them. Who knows? My point is, RC put up a good fight. Let's show them a little respect. Let me know in the comments, do you have a little more respect for RC Cola? Because that was my mission. Also,
Yep, we do. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that, and have a good day.